elders, we're trying to work on travel arrangements for the elders to be brought out from Cajun Bay. Yeah. Hopefully that happens.
Very good. That's the wheel here. Easier to get up and go to the washroom. Well, I don't do that. Wait.
You what?
Have we begun? Berg. Ja, maar zeg je wat hebben? Berg, maar roosgewek. Zama. En daar nog een schip. Ja, zei nog daar. Maybe we should move the table up.
It's all good.
That way, yeah.
You're on YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Come by here. Moving.
Hey, they might pick it up.
I'll do that. Where's the napkins? Start sweating. The face.
Not your forehead, so you don't have a shiny forehead.
Paper towels.
Okay, so, I guess, we can begin, and we'll start with the opening prayer. And, we've asked Angeconeb to, open, the Chiefs Forum with the prayer. And, I've asked, Brad Ross to share some opening remarks, thanking everybody, welcoming everybody in attendance. And then we'll just start from, I didn't get the mic.
Has to be right.
Yeah, I'll have to move, I'll have to walk around, so I might pass the mic around, so. Masha? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Kakidani bawita, nagwachimiko, chi kanonik manito, chi pomach tongingue, kawi kusindongo, uko kawi ogemakani viwat, winongom kawi ashtea kopigi. I've been asked to say a prayer before we start listening to the chief wannabes who are here. And so I will open the chief session forum before we start. Migwas kitiko manito, nongomina nongom, wapadaman, kishigak. Migwas kitiko, kimishian, wewene, kenimment, anoyawen. Migwas kitiko, wewene kanawene wato, kenandanoyama kananane, kay kanoma, skunakaning, kayawat, nishnabek. Migwas kitiko, mijian, wewene chi shisek, we, chepasandong gito, oko, kawi pikanun ng gito, we okunen wenche, we okimakanu wat, anin geto tamawat ke kung ke keshigewat, ishin skito wat, chi okimakanu wat. Because kinit ko manito, wewene kanawene kakana, ninwet amanda na may maginanik. We ask the Creator for a blessing. We thank Him for life today. We thank Him for our health. And we thank Him for the health of all our people in Laxo. Creator, we thank You for everything You have given us. And we ask You to help us to listen well, to have an open mind, and to have our hearts so that we can fully understand and fully realize
good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending in person or online. My name is Ross. I'd just like to welcome everyone here as we start the forum and introduction to all the candidates for chief. We'll try to do the best we can and give everyone, I guess, an insight to who we are. And I'm not quite too sure how each individual will move forward. But again, thank you so much for attending and attending online as well. Good luck to everyone here. Very much. Oh, we got one here. Just opening a mark, yeah. Their experience is highly respected. And I just wanted to say that I welcome everybody into this forum, this building, and people watching online. And I'm sitting here with my the individuals who are very strong in their experiences, and they'll relate that experience with you as we move along. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Derek Bond. I'm from Kijik Bay. Just like to welcome everybody who's present and online. Miigwech the Elder for the prayer, and also Brad Ross, who you remember, also candidate for the opening remarks. And just like thank you everybody for making an effort to come up. I know we're conflicting with Mingle, but thanks for coming out.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Ningewance. I'd just like to welcome everyone here as well today to this important event as the people decide on who their next leader is. Miigwech for everyone attending.
Hello, William. My name is Chisel here, and I live in Frenchman's Head. And yeah, I'd like to thank the people for showing up here and the rest of the candidates here. And I was nominated for Chief and Angeconeb Council too, where Richmond's Head. I'm glad to see there's a lot of candidates here and quite a diversity, I think. To me, I guess it shows that most people want some changes on the Plan Council. I think that's how I see it when I see lots of candidates all the time. And there's a lot of issues that have come up in the last few weeks or so. But I guess I'm going to mention a few of them here. But I don't want to get into too many details. Some of them there, but I think one of the things I like to see the band council do is have a reference to our treaty, the Treaty 3, that we are part of, and I'd like to see band council council treated too, they have a lot of resource people there that are available, I guess, where we can get more help and whatever we need. I noticed over the last few years, like I worked for the manager for the council for about 24 years or so, and maybe in between there, I was a project manager for a lot of projects. And I know the government spent a lot of time trying to prevent us from using our access to the land and our traditional territories. The province, I think, is has been trying hard to keep us from our rightful heritage, I guess that's what I would say. I used to work for Ontario government for quite a few years when I was younger, and I sat around with a bunch of people that worked there, and their attitude was, oh, we can get around these natives or try to push us out of the way. That was a lot of I noticed a lot of their policies were like that. The more they could stop us from using our traditional lands and our rights, I guess that's a lot easier for them. That's what I noticed in previous years. And I think we have to sort of straighten our I guess reliance on the treaty and our rights. We should push a little bit, push the governments, both federal and provincial. And the other thing I'd like to say about this is a lot of our own source revenues from which the band receives, I guess, from different places are related to resources like mining companies and forestry companies and that kind of stuff. And it seems to me that we're not doing much to spend some money or spend some effort in getting more people from our tribes to go into these kind of matters. Like I mentioned forestry and mining because I have experience with both of these. There's probably other places that we should be doing more. Another thing I'd like to see for the band council is to review our economic development policy and examine some of the projects that have been ongoing for now. I'd like to see where the dollars are coming from and what they're being used for. And I'd like to see the band chief of council or the administration provide more information to the people before things happen, not after, or not wait a year till they should be letting us know well ahead of time before things are started. And I also think that the band should provide more help for people that are interested in starting businesses. I had a lot of people talk to me in the last few years about they want help and they're writing up their proposals or how they should go or what to see and all that kind of stuff. And the first thing I usually tell them is, oh, there's a whole bunch of high-paid people sitting in the band office here that's supposed to help you, eh? And they usually tell me, oh, we don't want to go see them because the first thing they do is they shove a bunch of paper in our face and fill these out and that's about all the help they get there. I think there should be a lot more from the economic development staff. There should be a lot more help rather than just pushing standard norms on people. Because a lot of people aren't familiar with that kind of work. They should sit down with them and talk to them and go through all the starts from starting to the funding issues later. That's one of some of the economic development policies I'd like to see. There's a few other things I'd like to mention. One of them would be the HR policy, just as a human resource policy that the band is using. I have people that talk to me about it, and they have all kinds of complaints. I see some myself that are they don't seem to work for our people. This kind of when I read the job postings, it reminds me of why some of our prisons are full of natives, and even the child welfare agencies are starting to get overwhelmed by the number of kids that they are looking after. And just recently, somebody on the news said that their child welfare policy was just another form of residential school, I guess, where they tried to, I guess, get rid of the natives, or they're already assimilating us, I guess. And they were like the administration manual that the band uses now. I look at it a few times, and quite a few times, and sometimes they bring it out here to meetings, and I always notice that the band council, the membership is at the top. The chief of council only works for the membership, and the administration works for the councillors, or the band council. Sometimes it seems to me it's the other way around. They're telling us the other way around. I often wonder why they don't read their own administration manual more. That's another something I'd like to maybe check over, maybe redo it, or have the membership look it over, see if it's worth ratifying or whatever. Another thing I'd like to see too is maybe the actual police services board. To me, I haven't seen any changes there since it was initiated. It seems to me that like the same people are in there, and if I remember right, I think the plan was to have elections for the police services board every 2 years, like alternating, not everybody at the same time, but alternate every 2 years, so they'd have some continuity on there. And I don't think that has ever happened, not that I'm aware of. And my other thing I'd like to talk about maybe is housing, keynote housing there. To me, I noticed that there's more and more off-reserve people that are coming into work on our projects, not only on housing, but other large projects. We see a lot of people from off-reserve coming in, and I see a lot of our own people here wandering around collecting welfare, and just wondering why they don't get hired. I guess that's people always complain that to me, say, how come they don't hire us? Well, I don't know, but I think we should try and hire our own people first. And I remember when I started working for the band in the 80s or so, there was a lot of talk about capacity building. And we did start on our own, like we had our own carpenters, and we had our own plumbers and electricians. Some maybe heavy equipment operators that were certified. Now some of them are getting old and there's no replacement. And They're starting to hire people from out of town again. Like we're not training our own people to do all this stuff. I remember when I first started meeting with Indian Affairs about different things, they tell us, oh, you're number 100 and something on me for the school in Ontario, so it'll take you 30 years before you get school, or even the water system, we're number 98 or something. But we went out of our way to do it our own, and we went out and built our own water system. And we started working on school plans. It did take a long time, but yeah, I guess it made us feel good that actually we were actually helping ourselves. And I'd like to see more of that, where we do our own, we can do our own projects on our own, maybe have more people that are qualified. Just to say that last summer I went out to the road on there to Hudson, between here and Hudson. Around 7:30 and 8:15, I was sitting there about 40 minutes, and I counted the number of vehicles that were coming onto the reserve. Most of them were coming to work, I guess, that's what I figured. And I counted about 32 vehicles in that 40 minutes. I remember in 1980, the traffic was going the other way every morning, so now it's coming into the reserve. So there, I'd like to see more training courses provided for our people for different kinds of like skills, I guess. And I don't think everybody has to be like a great academic or anything, but there, that's what I'd like to see that in the housing, especially, and maybe for housing, I'd like to see people do some local designs here with using log cabins and stuff there. I see there's some people here at the bridge that I've been working out someplace near the bridge there, along there, and I hear they're building a log cabin on their own, and I see them working during the rain and through the snow and all that, and it shows a lot of effort that they're willing to put in there when they're planning to help themselves and they have the resources. They're probably working with just a little bit of their own stuff. I don't think they're getting much help from the band. There's kind of things I'd like to see there, where we have use our own materials. And we have our own sawmill, and we could do a lot of quite a bit of the stuff that is required to build a house. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that the assisted living residence that is probably coming online. I don't know how long it'll take, but things seem to be moving along better than before. I know there are a lot more people that are looking for a place to stay. Like, they don't really want to move to Thunder Bay or Francis or Kenora. I talked to some people that are there already, and they much prefer to be at home, closer. And another location for that building, I'd like to. A lot of people, the elders, are saying that they like to see it near the lake, someplace, and that would be one of the good things that we could do. I think talk to some elders around here and ask them where the location they would want. And I'd like to say something about that here. It's the residence there. I remember in the early 80s or around there, Roger Saltwin was the chief, and I was just one of the new councillors, and we were talking to Indian Affairs about an old age home for the reserve. And they told us, well, you and Roger, you guys should put your names in now, because by the time it's done, you guys will be ready to go in there. That's what they told us, and it seems to be working out all right that way. I hope it's sooner than later. Another posting to work on. I think they should consult with the people in all the communities, maybe even offers their members, and they should talk to the membership first and then hire the consultants. I don't think they should rely on consultants first and then to tell us what we should be doing there. To me, I think it's up to us to make sure that we use our land and look after it, and maybe get our benefits to ourselves. I'm sure there's a lot of other issues I could bring, but I think that's some of the more important stuff I'd like to see, like writing sooner than later. I'd like to thank people for coming and listening there. Me good.
Bonjour, good afternoon. My name is Brad Ross. I'm from Kijik Bay, I grew up in Kijik Bay. And I currently live in Silicon. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for showing up, people tuning in online. You guys, thank you. I guess coming into this candidates forum and the upcoming elections, I really hope everyone participates in the election. We've got a lot of gifted people here in our community, in our First Nation. We've got a lot of resources. We've got a lot of people that carry a lot of gifts, experience, knowledge, skills. We have a lot of issues that we are currently working on. The current chief and council have done a lot of great work, and those before them as well, previous chiefs and councillors. And we take a lot of stuff that they have done, and we've learned a lot from them. So going forward, looking at the success of our previous chiefs and councils, current chief and council, all the commitment, hard work, and dedication that they have done, and that's what we have to work off of, and take all those positive successes and move forward. We know we have issues in our community, and the more we can talk like this and be open, the direction come from the membership that are going to guide the chief and council and move forward and address the issues that we need. We have issues like in our social, our housing, our infrastructure, education, healthcare, our economic development. So there's a lot of areas that we do want to focus on, and working collectively with the council from the direction from the membership. We all have great ideas and great plans, great solutions to some of the challenges we face. I had the privilege of working with chief and council currently and previously. I've worked with a lot of managers, a lot of membership in this community. I've worked in and off reserve, on and off reserve for different companies, corporations, different tribal councils, and I've learned a lot, gained a lot of experience. I've spent a lot of time up north and lived out the land quite a bit. And our land use involvement, especially now with our youth. We have a lot of programs geared towards our youth, which is absolutely amazing. We got programs getting stronger for our elders as well. We do have, I know the current chief have been working very hard on programs like long-term care facilities, our education, our health. And we need to continue those services and carry them on, move forward, and work collectively and represent our First Nations. And I see everyone here, and you got so many gifted people that are running for chief that will be held accountable and are going to listen to the direction of the membership. And that's where the power comes from, is from the membership. As we move forward, with the chief and the new council, after November 13, working collectively, having more meetings. We've got the 4 communities that represent Lac Seul, Canoe River, Kijik Bay, Whitefish Bay, Frenchman's Head. But we also have our off-reserve membership that need a lot of representation. A lot of people move off-reserve for health, for health reasons, education, training, housing, or even employment. But they also need help out there as well for services, programs, assistance. And I think we need to establish that mechanism to help the people that are off reserve, because the majority of our voters, our membership, are off reserve. So we need to focus not only on reserve, but off reserve as well. We do have a lot of gifted people, even the people who are off reserve that want to come home to provide more housing and education and employment. We want to strengthen all our departments. We've got great people and great resources here, and we know this. We share and we talk to each other. And moving forward together from the direction from the people is very important. I'd just like to thank everyone for approaching me and coming up with a lot of solutions to some of the problems we're experiencing. And they have great ideas. You know, training and employment are a big part of what we need to focus on. We got our social problems that will be addressed as well. Education is coming along very good. Our healthcare. I think the more we work together, we will have a successful, we do have a successful community. We will make it more successful if we work together. And again, you know, we all care and love one another. We help each other when we're down. And it's very evident that we have such a strong, beautiful nation. So with the, I guess the upcoming elections, you know, I encourage everyone to come out and vote. You know, talk to your family, your friends. Share your stories, your ideas, your wisdoms. We're all open for discussions. You know, you can call us and email us, talk to us in person. So we try to make visits here and there. There's a lot of people that come forward to all of us, and we will represent you in the best way we can. We are all committed and dedicated. We all love our community. We love our people. We love our lands. So I guess with that being said, I thank you, Miigwech.
Bonjour. Karen Ningewance Dishnikas, Obishkang Dunji. You would be Good afternoon, my name is Karen Ningewance. I'm from Lac Seul and I'm running as a Chiefs candidate in this election. I would like to welcome everyone that's tuning in and here present today. To begin my introduction, I am 49 years old. I've been married for 26 years to my husband, Roy. We've raised 4 children together, and I am moving on, which is something I feel is the next phase of my life here in the community. I believe I have the ability to lead our First Nation. This is through my past experience. I have served 4 terms on the Kijik Bay Council, so I bring forth political experience. I've also currently employed by the Grand Council of Treaty 3 for the last 5 years, and that's enabled me to be current in the issues and the initiatives affecting the Treaty 3 in Angeconeb. As part of our assemblies, we have regular updates by the Ontario Regional Chief, National Chief, and the NAN Grand Chief. So it's all very informative. I believe leadership comes from the heart. I believe in our youth, in honoring our elders. I'm a firm believer of family values and in treating people equally and with respect. So with that, I'm going to go a little bit into my platform as a candidate seeking election as chief. The majority of my platform is going to focus on accountability, community engagement, and transparency. I feel that over the last few years, this has sort of fallen by the wayside, where we as Angeconeb people here in the communities are often not included in the decision making. I'd like to see more community engagement sessions, you know, where we go out and speak to the band members, we seek their direction and their support, you know, as we continue to progress as a First Nation. In terms of accountability, I'd like to see more newsletters, website updates, and even going on our local radio station here, CKZY Radio, 90.3 FM. I think that there should be weekly schedules of the Chief and Council to show where we're at and what we're doing, and as well as a regular reporting mechanism from the business that we conduct on behalf of the First Nation. I also support the community access to the band council resolutions that are signed on a monthly basis at Chief and Council meetings. In terms of helping in the area of communications, I'd like to see a communications coordinator be hired that's going to have that responsibility to ensure that the communication is happening and the outreach, the information, the updates to the community members. Along with that comes the transparency of what we're doing to govern our First Nation. I'd like to see not just one AGM, but 2 per year, a spring and a fall assembly. I'd like minutes of all Chief and Council's political meetings and business meetings. I'd like to have those minutes prepared within 2 weeks of each meeting and be available on the website. I'd also encourage elder and community representation at meetings and our negotiations so people are more informed and included. Also access to financial information, including budgets. I think that there could be annual budgets and work plans presented at the general meetings. In terms of governance and administration, I feel that there should be a separation of Chief and Council from the band administration. I see the leadership as spending a lot of time in administration when we have a program manager for every portfolio here at the community level. I'd like to see the establishment of an Elders Advisory Committee where I feel that it's important to include the elders in our decision making. They have a lot of valuable insight and also a lot of history and a lot of wisdom. And I'd like to include them more in the community decision making. Also, in terms of governance, I'd like to reintroduce the custom election code. I know the community has been trying to implement this for a number of years, but we haven't come to the point where it's been accepted through a community referendum, perhaps. I don't know if people remember, but back in 1994, there was a custom code passed at that time, at that election. And the chief that was elected at that time felt Laxville was not ready to proceed in the custom election code. So it's almost been over 20 years since we've allowed ourselves to continue under the Indian Act election code. So I would certainly explore that once again. In terms of off-reserve representation, I believe it's the responsibility of the chief who's elected, to represent the off-reserve, and I'm willing to come up with a mechanism or a strategy to include as much of their input and their feedback, because I feel that they have a lot to offer and a lot of valuable information that they could help Laxville become strong and vibrant. Also, just being more accessible to the off-reserve membership. I know we have IFNA office in Thunder Bay, and it's a good place for people in that area that they could approach a chief at the chief's office there. I believe that's what that building is for. In terms of economic development, I certainly agree with Grant here, where there needs to be more focus on economic development. As I understand, there's one person in charge of economic development here in the community. I believe it requires a team, especially a proposal writer, that's going to help enhance the program services and the level of funding that we receive. And I would certainly like to look at on-reserve businesses more. Things like a motel diner combination type of thing, perhaps another tourist camp in Whitefish, Kijik Bay. We had initially started a project some years ago, and I'd like to see that brought back to life and actually establish a camp in our community. Other ideas I have is a taxi service, perhaps a small engine repair shop and a tire repair shop. Like I said, that's where the opportunities are for employment, training, and having local access to more services. And in terms of housing, I agree that there needs to be more housing, and I support the concept of these new initiatives for mini housing, like small housing, for people that don't have families, older people, young single people. I know our single people often get the lousiest housing, a house that nobody wants to live in anymore. A young person is forced to move into that house and start a life independently. I think they deserve better quality housing. And in terms of the nursing home, I think it's a great project that's underway, and it will eventually open our doors to the assisted living units and nursing home type of living. It's a great opportunity for our elders to return to the reserve, and also those that are dealing with dialysis. It's a tough situation when you're on dialysis. And in terms of education, I would really like to see the return of the OPG contribution to education and training. I believe it was for 10 years and that expired last year. I'd like to renegotiate that allocation again to come back to LACSUL so that our post-secondary and our grade 12 graduates, they benefit from that fund. We have to do as much as we can to support our students that attend post-secondary. In order for them to succeed, we need to be involved, be supportive, help them as much as we can. In terms of training, I know that we are currently a member of the Shunyao-Wagatung Area Management Board, and we left SLAM a number of years ago. But I don't see that our people are really benefiting from the district-wide training that Shunyao offers. I see a lot of good things here with the SLAM area, and perhaps we could explore going back to SLAM and being able to take more advantage of the training opportunities that they have here locally. And we're just, hopping a skip away from Silicon. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention in regards to education, I know we have this excellent training center here in Hudson that currently offers some post-secondary programming, but we also have the Confederation College in Silicon that has more to offer in terms of opportunities. And I know there's a van that takes our students to Hudson every day, and I don't see why we couldn't make that extra 15-minute trip to Silicon to drop off students at the local college and be able to bring them back. I see that as a great means of support in helping our young people obtain their education. I also believe in, I have a great respect for our elders. I'd like to see the community honor our elders more. I'd like to see more community feasts happening where we just get together and share and spend time with our elders. More support and advocacy for them because they struggle in, in getting their pensions filled out and trying to figure out their hydro bills, simple stuff like that. I think we should be more willing to help our elders. I also thought about a traditional food program here where I know a lot of elders don't have the means to be provided with traditional food on as part of their regular diet. I'd like to see the community come together and support our elders that way. We have a lot of hunters here in the community who still, go out on the land, and I think we can meet that need. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for our elders, and I would never abuse our elders in any way. They deserve our respect. In terms of lands, I guess, I do support Derek's work in terms of developing some sort of land management act for the reserve. I also agree with Grant that it should be a community-driven process, not left to the hands of a consultant to begin that work. I believe by working together, we can accomplish so much together as a First Nation. And I support the healing and wellness camp that's still in the process, I think, of opening its doors someday, and I really believe that it'll benefit our people in terms of healing and dealing with some of the social issues that we have in the community. I also believe that there has to be a community support, to begin that journey towards healing from the social problems that affect our community. In terms of health, I think we definitely need to address the issue with the hard drugs coming into the community. I'm hearing almost on a weekly basis now that there's a meth overdose, quite a bit, and we need to come up with a solid plan on how we're going to fight that battle. And I believe that we all have to be willing to work together, as parents, as grandparents, to save our young people. And we already have a lot of resources in place here. We have the Suboxone program, we have the NADAP program, we have the First Nation Restoration Center, and all these are there. People need to reach out and get that support, and if there's additional support from family in the community, I think, that these people would be empowered to take that step towards dealing with their addictions and begin the journey of recovery. In regards to policing, I do feel that there should be more efforts by the Laxville Police Service in the war against meth and the hard drugs that are coming into the community. And I think some of us are also aware that, there's a means to make them within the community, and that needs to stop. I support the regular communication between the leadership and the Laxville Police Service and their board to work together more to provide a better quality of policing and public safety. And speaking of safety, going into public works, I feel safety is the #1 issue here in terms of roads and bridges and brush. There needs to be more brushing on our community roads. Also with road safety in the winter, what I'd like to see actually is 2 shifts over the winter road maintenance coverage. I had approached the Public Works Manager last year with that recommendation, and we didn't see that. I'm hoping that there's going to be more of that if we sort of work together to accomplish that. I know in the morning, like the buses and the medical vans are out first thing in the morning, and sometimes, and even the people that leave the reserve to go work, it's dangerous for them to be out there slipping and sliding, and our roads are not plowed and sanded. I'd like to see somebody start working at 6 a.m. to plow the roads. Also, in terms of our culture, I really support the new program, the Choose Life program. It's an excellent initiative. It's allowed our young people, young families to be a part of land-based programs that are out there that they're offering, fishing, hunting, and camping and stuff like that. That's all wonderful because a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and it's a great way to feel proud of your culture and who you are, you know, by being out on the land. I totally support that. And again, I also believe in bringing our cultural identity back into the communities and just learning about who we are and being proud as Anishinaabe people. And I support the return of our language. I know our language is still alive here, and I would definitely like to see our youth and the next generations be able to speak their language. So that's about it for my platform. Like I said, I'd like my focus, if elected as a chief, is to bring back community engagement, the direction, and feedback of members. I know I have lots of ideas here today, but I also believe that the mandate should come from the membership, and that's what I'll be seeking if elected. And with that, miigwech for listening, and would like to wish the best to all my fellow candidates, including those running for council, because leadership is an important responsibility. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Karen. I'd just like to take in advance Ron, David, Mona, and Rod for when they speak, and also I'd like to thank Brad, Grant, and Karen. So, good afternoon. My name is Derek Mott. I'm from Kijik Bay. I'm running for, it's always been a conflict of mine that the title chief, I know traditionally the title was called the head person, or the one who speaks. So I guess that's a designation that I would feel more comfortable with, because I feel that as a chief, that title should be earned by how you perform your duty as the leader, not being elected by white society, I guess you can say. So, just a little background for me. I've lived in Kijik Bay since my family moved, when I moved back with my mom back in 1993. I've called Kijik Bay and Laxu my home since. I've been married since 2004. I have 4 kids, and 2 of them are finally finishing high school. A little longer than they hoped, but at least it's done. So I was asked this past summer to run for this position, and at the time I told that person, who was an off reserve member, that I felt that I wasn't ready yet, and I felt that maybe I don't have that experience yet, and I said maybe in a couple years' time, or when I have a little bit more white hairs on my head, maybe I'll consider it. Then this person, Jody, says, well, we'll see. So it wasn't until nomination day that my grandmother, Josephine King, asked me to run. And I told her the same story that I told that person. And she said, you don't need white hair to be a leader. She said, just do it. So, like, I'm not going to say, I won't say no to her. So that's when I decided nomination. And like Karen, like Brad, like everybody at this table, we all held roles as leaders in the community. And we try our best to perform our duties. And I've been a counselor in Kijik Bay for quite a number of years. And over the years, I've felt that I've matured more and more as a leader. When I got on board, it was more like I was thrown in the wolf's den. There was no training, or there was no somebody to put me under their wing and teach me how to be a leader. So everything was self-taught and just winging it and getting advice from other people, other leaders. So, which brings me today. So, as a leader, I guess, I'd focus on four main things. I know the one thing that I hold true is the governance of the nation. Like Karen says, we have to work on our membership and our election code, because this can determine how the governing body of the nation is governed. Like, we'd have our own protocols, how we should be presented, and that's something that I think that's we need. Also, another thing with governance is a business governance. I know Grant talked about it, and Karen talked about it, is separating business with chief and council and the admin. And this is something that I've been saying for a while, is that at the council level is stepping away from that. We got to develop a model where the council and the admin don't administer this money, that it should be by the people, that be the board and governor that decides how all this money that's generated be spent, rather than it going to an account under the ban. And I think it would make perfect sense. And I know I've talked to our economic development officer, and he thinks that model would work. It's been done in the past, it was introduced, but I think it was so technical that it took a lot of, with the community health station, it was really hard for the people to understand. And I know at the time it was introduced, it was pretty technical, and a lot of pie graphs and charts and all this and that. And if we just break it to a really simple form, I think that kind of mechanism would work for Lac Seul, because a lot of the northern communities look at Lac Seul as we're leading the way, we're advanced, but in some ways we're not as advanced as some think. So I've always felt that these joint venture money should be administered by the people it's supposed to benefit, which is the community members. So that's one thing I would like to see, is that this business governance model be administered by the community members. Also having somebody off the reserve member to sit on this board of governors, preferably somebody in the traditional territory of Lac Seul. Another thing I was talking that is advocating and lobbying for more programming dollars, because every year INAC, Indian Affairs, ANSI, ISK, whatever flavor of the month they want to call themselves, they keep changing formula funding for our core funding. So it's sometimes they don't tell us till about fall time or late winter, where we have to start brainstorming ways to get these proposals in by the new fiscal year. So I think identifying key members in council to actually to do this work, to give them the task to finding these programs that are going to be moved around, modified, whatever you want to call it. That's one thing that I would work towards with the council and with whatever program managers that's going to be affected. Also, getting back with the education. Education too is another. Oh, I'm just going to move closer. Okay. Education is another area that I closely follow, and I guess it's going to be coming down the road sometime that our education is going to be changing quite a bit when it comes to funding. And as leaders, I think we have to understand that we're going to have to be making some decisions when it comes down to the funding agreements. Because you know, some programs are ending this coming year, and they're going to be replaced with something else. And it was said that even this new funding that's coming up to replace the existing one, there's not enough money to go around for everyone. So I think that's something that we have to strategize as a First Nation, that we don't want these programs to end. They're doing the kids good work. So I think we're advocating for that, even if we have to dig in our own pockets to make these programs succeed, would do justice for our kids. I know Choose Life too is another program that's fairly new. Very good program. Well, I know Brad talked about it. He's done the work in Silcout. But we have to realize too that this program might sunset too at the end of this fiscal year. And I think we have to be prepared. And I think we need a working group from Lac Seul to represent us at the bigger table when this announcement might be made or may not be made. But we need to still have a plan B in place, because it was tried, I guess, but I'm not too sure what happened. That was before my time. But it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I went to a conference, and it opened my eyes about how all these other First Nations are governing their lands. And I heard a comment one time that they say that First Nations are given a box to live in, and this box is controlled by the non-natives. And my thinking was, okay, we live in a box, but you know, we can control that box. What happens in that box? And we don't need these agencies to tell us what to do with our land. And so this land department would comprise of a coordinator and some clerks, and they would do the land use plan. They'll get traditional knowledge from the elders, where to build, where not to build, where to protect. Even leasing land for businesses outside the reserve, so we can get that revenue. So it's things like that I've been thinking about with this proposed departments, which we don't have. Another department I felt is in need is a governance department. You know, there's so many changing legislations in the government that a lot of people don't understand, and as a leader, it's hard to digest too, and sometimes we don't have the time to do all this. So I felt if having a governance officer, clerk, would help the First Nation understanding these legislation changes. Like a prime example would be the legislation that was introduced and that passed earlier this summer. It was Bill 262. It was the United Nations declarations on indigenous people. Like, how many people understand what that is about? I know I've just learned about it this past spring, and I've read into it, and there's about 39 articles in there, I believe. And there's a lot to digest in that, and it's going to do, and with the Liberal government accepting it, and it's just now we have to work on how we're going to implement it. So it's a strange thing, because another one is the Indigenous Rights Framework is another thing that the Liberals are pushing on to replace the Indian Act. And it's going to change the dynamic of the First Nation if it's accepted, or when it's accepted, because everybody knows that the Supreme Court of Canada made that announcement that First Nations don't need to be consulted when making laws. So I have a fear that they might move this framework on us. I know in the news it said it was stalled, but how long is that stalled going to be? So I think it'll be wise if we find somebody, identify somebody to do this work, to find all this legislation, and just sort of like what Karen said, somebody like a PR or a communications coordinator that would do all this work. And another thing that I felt that with this governance officer person would be, and this person would also be the one to do all the membership codes, the election codes, did be the ones that take those, to do all the work plans for this and try to get it out to the members. So another thing I wanted to work on was community strategies. I know Karen mentioned it, and I like to say it again as well, is we have to develop our own drug strategy. You know, I hear it too. It's scary. You know, we've talked with our police service about our concerns about how these drugs are getting into the community. We get the same response over and over, like we have to catch them, but we're, you know, like how many of our members is it going to have to, you know, sadly to say, pass when something's going to be done? I know we have the resources, like Karen says, and also we have outside resources that we can tap into. We have the Northwest Health Unit who are currently right now in the earlier stages of developing their own drug strategy. Also earlier in the summer, I reached out to the Thunder Bay Drug Strategy Unit, and them too, they're kind of busy now because their 5-year plan just initiated this year. So when it slows down, I'm hoping to bring that individual here and start talking about how they got their funding and the steps they took. But the one thing she said that is going to be the key component. She said that all the administration, the leadership can do as much work as they want, but it's going to be a community effort that's going to make it happen. So I think a lot of community involvement in the strategic plan would give the people the confidence and the security to come out and make a difference when it comes to battling the hard drugs. Because as a parent, I find it sad that in the summertime, springtime when the snow goes, that we have to walk in the back trail behind my house, which leads to the school, that there's needles back there. And you know, the Suboxone Clinic does offer a needle exchange program, but still we're still finding needles everywhere. And it's kind of sad. But also part of the drug strategy, we have to recognize the healing and the wellness, and we have to acknowledge the people that are trying to help themselves. We got to support them the best we can. And we have a healing lodge that's in construction now, and we have the health program and the Choose Life that are working towards finding funding to make sure that there's a caretaker or programmings to happen. I know IFNA, with the help of Rachel Garrett, that she pointed us in the right direction where to find other outside resources. So just, again, it's just managing to get that plan going, to identifying people and to get the community seriously involved to combat this. Another part of the things with the community strategy is community safety plan, preparedness. Like, we have to be prepared for when there's fires. Kijik Bay this year alone, we had 3 fires. Two of them were house fires that sadly the houses could not be saved. And the equipment was not there. We weren't prepared for it, but we did our best we can. You know, the community came together at those times, and we fought those fires with little that we had. Also, forest fires. Kijik Bay was a victim of a forest fire, and it was lucky that it was early in the season when the ground was still pretty wet. It wasn't mid-summer. But the thing that I didn't like when we called MNR for help, and what MNR said was, "Don't touch it, leave it. We'll send a couple crews in the morning." That was unacceptable because we called them at 5 o'clock, 5:30, and they told us to wait till the morning time when they'll send somebody. So, like I said, the community gathered around again, and we, lucky enough, we just finished, OW just finished firefighting training, so we had trained firefighters, and we just grabbed whatever we can find and solved that fire. So even utilizing people like that, like making our own forest fighting department. I know David has his, he's doing one now, and it's a long time coming. I know he's trying and can understand that, but again, we just got to get the community more involved, you know, get it out there, and I think we need some more dog mascot suits for each community. Slappy the dog, I think his name is. Sparky the dog, yeah, there he is. Elders and youth. I've, as a former youth worker, and the majority of my time before I became a counselor, I worked with youth. I was a youth worker for 3.5 years in Kijik Bay. I worked in Pelican Falls as a house counselor. I worked for Laxo Education as an education counselor. I volunteered my time for the past 5 years at our minor hockey, and this past summer I tried to start up a soccer club in Kijik Bay. It wasn't too bad for the month of June. It had 8 kids, and I thought I was athletic as I thought I was, but now I can keep up with those kids for a while. Not as fast as I used to be. But I'm a firm supporter of supporting our kids in any way. You know, I don't say no to them. I try to encourage them. And the elders too, like I said, you know, took my grandma to convince me to accept my nomination, which I did. I try to do my best to talk with the old ladies in Kijik Bay. The ones in Karen must know who I'm talking about. We have a row house by the band office, and they always sit around outside and talk, so usually try to talk with them. Pretty funny, actually, most of the time. So that's one thing I would like to see is, like Karen said, is an advisory committee to the council, these elders. And these elders, I would bring them to whenever it's time to hard decisions, especially when it comes to BCRs or membership issues, community issues, that these people have had the life lessons that I lack. I don't have that experience, but they do. And I respect them what they say. I know sometimes I have the difficulty, I guess, with the language, because I wasn't taught the language growing up. I'm what you guys would call a second-generation survivor of the residential school. Both my parents went to residential school, and I guess they just never taught it to me and my sister. But so I'm starting to understand phrases as much as I can, and I can speak a few words here and there. So that's one thing I've been trying to work on with myself, to better myself. And lastly, another thing that I want to do is special projects. The one thing that I want to do is starting up a cultural committee. And with this committee, they will be the ones that will make the plan, the strategic plan, how to preserve and resurrect our language for the younger ones. Also, the reclaiming our artifacts that are sitting in a vault in Ottawa. You know, I went there for the opening of the trial, and we did see these artifacts, and it was actually pretty sad that they were sitting in a locked room in a basement, not seeing the sun of the day, you know, who knows how long. And I felt that, you know, we need to bring these artifacts home where they belong, because that's the identity of the people of Lac Seul. And when the people see this, their rich history and their culture, you know, it'll make them more proud of who they are. And they said that one of the things they said was we wouldn't be allowed to have these things back unless we had a facility. And that's one of the things I would make a priority for this working group, is to create that facility. And in my vision, this facility will be a roundhouse, and that roundhouse, I would prefer to have it in Kijik Bay, because historically Kijik Bay was a traditional hub of cultural activities. Like, we had shaking tent ceremonies there, we had Medewan lodges, powwows, fasting ceremony areas. So that's one thing I want to see, is to reclaim our culture and bring those items back home where they belong. And I know I didn't really want to talk about it, but there was this settlement claim. I said this in the AGM this past spring, that I'd feel comfortable having a grassroots committee to administer this money. And the recommendation I would give to this committee was we got to invest in our education again. You know, like Karen says, we have to support our post-secondary students the best we can. Also, we have to put money in there to support students that wanted to go into programs that INAC doesn't fund, like learning institutes, so like some aviation, or I can't think of any. I know there's one in Thunder Bay I can picture it in my head, but I can't remember what it's called. Like stuff like that, or church colleges. I can't remember what they're called, but there's one out in Saskatoon that INAC can't accept as for funding. You know, in ingesting more money into the programs. Also, completing this elders' home. I know many of us have that as a priority to make this happen. So, I know we're stretching the time, so I'll end it there. I'll say miigwech.
No, actually, the moderator had to ask me to, not the moderator, yeah. Mona had asked me if there would be interested in a 5-minute break, and I said, "Nah, I don't think so. Let's just roll it along, because 5 o'clock is going to be rolling up very quickly, and we still have a number of people here that need to be need a chance to be on the mic." Okay, with my initial remarks there, I thought they were simply introductory remarks, and I briefly said my introductory remark, but you know what? I forgot to introduce myself by that. I didn't say my name was Angeconeb, and I'm Angeconeb. I'm running for the chief of the First Nation. But somewhere along the line here, we lost our introductory opening remarks into a platform, platform discussions. Anyway, I want to give you a bit of my history, okay? I am a residential school survival. I did finish high school in Dryden, and afterwards, after Dryden, Ontario, after I finished high school, I went railroading. So I am a railroader. I did that for a number of years. And when I was railroading, I was just talking to Gilbert, there, our elder, that I worked with him. When I was railroading, I did apprentice as a track welder, and I'm a qualified CM welder. I did that for a bit. But afterwards, I didn't really like the lifestyle when I was when I was on the railroad, because I was out in the field all summer, and I missed out on my home life. I wanted a home life. I didn't want a gang life, and that's why I left the railroad. After the railroad, I worked for the First Nation. And I worked with LACSO for about 25 years altogether, holding different positions in the organization. I was with the LACSO school for about 4 years as a maintenance janitor. And then afterwards, I moved on to, I applied for other positions in the organizations, and I worked as the economic development officer for a number of years. And I worked along with Jack Angeconeb, and Jack Angeconeb was a very good mentor. He taught me how to do a lot of proposal writing, and actually he was really good. He did not put up with the mistakes that I'd make. He would actually sit down and scold me and correct me. And he said, "Ron, you can do a better job, go back and do it." And you know what? That's the kind of mentorship I really needed, and I really appreciate what he taught me. And when I worked with him just for a few short years, we were able to secure some funding for some of the training programs we had on the reserve. The expansion of a couple of buildings at the tourist resort here, LACSO Resort, and Makwa. It was our efforts that we were able to secure funding to build additional cabins there. And I worked on the helicopter pad too in Chisel. I was the author of that proposal. However, I didn't do any of the project management for that particular one. And then afterwards, I moved out to Kenora, and I was in Kenora for a winter there, and I took a computer literacy course while I was out there, and I was drawing EI at the time. But when I came back here, I applied for a job at LACSO, and I ran for council, and I got on council, and I served as a band councillor here for four and a half terms. And I've held the social portfolio, and I held the education portfolio. And I really hold dear to my heart the education. That's my area. And I worked on the feasibility study here for the Bishkukang Elementary School. It was probably the longest running feasibility study that I had ever witnessed. And that's what they had told me when I was down in Toronto meeting with Joseph Young. He was the senior funding officer at the time. He says, "You know, this is the longest feasibility study that we've ever done." And it was true, because it just kept going back and forth for about 10 years. And at that time, we had the creation of the LACSO Education Authority. It was passed by a resolution, so it was established and recognized by a resolution. And And out of that, we had our educational director at that time, who was Richard Morris, who had developed the government's bylaw for that particular body. And where it is, I don't know where it is, but those are some of the things I would like to bring back to life if they're not being swayed aside. And I worked as after serving as band council for about 10 years. I resigned on my 5th term, and I went and got employment as the education director, and I was with LAXO band for LAXO Education Authority for about 7 years as the education director. And you know what, it was a very rich, rewarding experience. And after 7 years, I went over to NNEC, and I applied there as a personnel officer, and I'm currently there. I'm on my 7th year there. But my 2nd year into NNEC as the personnel officer, they had dissolved the HR finance director, and a lot of the HR responsibilities came over my way. And I assumed those duties in an acting role, and it's been one learning experience, and that's where I am today. But moving forward, I think it's very important that we move forward with a clear vision, with a clear path where we want to go. And without a path, without a clear vision, we can't thrive. We can't get there. And you know what? I'm getting on up there in years too. I'm 60 years old, and I've gone through a lot of life struggles. And you know, a lot of things that I experienced have been like a crucible. What a crucible is some of the life experiences are tough. And what they do, they're designed to make you a better person, I think. What it does is it puts you in a crucible, turns up the heat, and it burns out the impurities out of your life. And you know what? I've gone through that several times, and I believe I'm a better person. I'm thankful for those experiences. And go back to the vision. I think it's very clear that we have that strong vision for our community and make that path clear, because without it, how can you arrive at a certain point? And you know what? And to wrap up my comments, my experience, my education, whatever it may be, is not enough. You know, I rely heavily on my Creator to help me, to assist me, to guide me, because on my own, I am nothing. And I value my Creator, and as a leader, I will maintain my spiritual life with Him. And me coach, he's for sure new Kamakan around, he's for an Benham at the Benjamin, Chiwichi shit, Chimmerin shit, which moved to a Hoyak, he was going to say, yeah, me coach.
Hello. I guess I'm next. My name is David Gordon. I would just like to acknowledge everybody here that came out today. I'd like to thank Andy for the opening prayer. Just say hello to everybody who's here and everybody who's watching online. So, yeah, my name is David Gordon. I'm running for chief and counselor in Frenchman's Head. So, just a bit about myself. I guess I start with I'm married to my wife Janet. Been together for almost 40 years or 45 years. We have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. Both of my 2 kids live in off reserve. One lives in Thunder Bay, one lives in down in Southern Ontario. And they both went there for like work. That's where they live. I mean, they had to move away basically to get jobs. So a bit more about my background. I have been chief of Black Soul in the past, from 2002 to 2006. And then I served on council for 2 terms at some point. So I've basically been working, with the band or for the band since 2002, I guess, in different roles. And most recently, I was the housing manager. I'm not the housing manager anymore. My current job is director of capital projects. So some of my things that I'd just like to talk about, if I was elected as a leader, either chief or councillor, is the governance that a lot of people here have talked about, and I agree with what everybody else has said, like the other candidates so far. Everybody's, made really good comments, and I believe they would do a good job. But around the governance, one thing is the election code. People have talked about that. I would work on trying to have our own election code, our own election system, and basically get out from the Indian Act, which we're under now for our elections. So I know we've tried it a few times in the past. It's never been successful, but I think we still need to try that. Some of the things that I would like to change is to have the term for councillor and chief extended to at least 3 or 4 years. I think as a new councillor, as a new chief, you really need a longer term than 2 years to actually work on some of the things, or work on your platform and delivering things that you want to deliver for the people. So another thing I'd like to do, we talked about this the last time we tried to change our election code, was to have a number of councillors either reduced or possibly have, not councillors that are full-time on salary. Like you could have kind of a council that would meet every couple of weeks or whatever, but they wouldn't have to be, paid full-time. They could basically maybe have other jobs. And, if you want to serve the people, if you want to do that, you can do it in other ways. Like you don't have to be, in the band office every day, I think 5 days a week. Because, our community, I believe now where we have, a lot of people working in different positions, different directors, there's different departments, and the community kind of, the administration, it runs okay. So, and, they don't need, somebody looking after them or giving them advice all day, like basically separating the administration from the politics. So that's something that I would like to work on. With the off reserve, I would like to have offices in some of the off reserve areas like Red Lake, Thunder Bay, Winnipeg, Sulikout. These would just be small offices where, a councillor could go to Red Lake, and they would have an office. People could come and meet them. They wouldn't be like fully staffed or anything like that. They'd just be small offices where people could meet with the leadership. And I would go back to having more community meetings with the chief and council. Like, I think in the past, going back a while, we used to have meetings, I think there were every 4 months or quarterly or something like that. I'd like to go back to doing that, where we have meetings with the people like at least 4 times a year. And basically have the chief and council report, you know, to the people and what they're doing, give the people a chance to ask questions and things like that. Some of the other things, with education and training, I think one thing we need here is to expand our schools. Basically, our schools are not big enough, so I'd work on expanding the school, especially here in Frenchman's Head. The school is, you know, there's not enough space for all the students that we have now. In healthcare, I would, some things, one of the things that I think we could have here, probably in Frenchman Head, is a doctor, like a clinic where there's doctors in the clinic, like on a daily basis. So people could go there and basically see a doctor. I know that, you know, with the Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority, I think it would be possible, and I think our community is large enough that we should be able to have that. So I would work on that. And the other thing that I've thought about in the past is trying to have a dialysis unit here in the community. And I know that would take, you know, it's kind of a big project, but again, it's something I think we could do, and I would like to work on that to have at least 2 or 3 dialysis machines here in the community. In healthcare, I would want to have elders, I don't know, elders advocate, like a person hired just to work with the elders, or, you know, on any issues the elders have, could be health issues or finance or housing or just anything, but somebody to help the elders work on the issues that they have. And especially around healthcare, where, you know, the healthcare system is complicated, and, you know, you find yourself in it, it's kind of confusing sometimes, and you need somebody like that to help people get through it. Under the, like, policing, I guess, you know, I agree with previous comments that the police board could be, you know, we could ask for new members or something like that to have new people on the police board. Keeping our own police force is something that I really believe we need to do. You know, once in a while the government's tried to take our police force away from us by, you know, saying we've got to join Treaty 3 police, or you should not be asking police, or something like that. But so it's a constant thing. Every 5 years we've got to fight to keep our own police force, keep the funding there. So I'd like to hire, you know, some additional, what do you call it? I call them band constables. They wouldn't be like regular Lac-Sioux police, but they'd be constables where they're not required to, you know, follow all, you know, say, the rules that a police officer has to follow. Like, because a lot of times our police officers, you know, they say, well, you know, we just can't go into somebody's house, we need a warrant and all this kind of stuff, right? But I believe if we had our own constables, we could give them the authority to do some of those kinds of things, and it would just be like you know, us as a community acting and protecting our youth or our elders or whatever, right? We would just say, okay, we'll have these band constables and they can work with the police, but they would have like powers given to them by the chief and council and by the people to do things like, you know, maybe just go into a house if there's a party going on. They could go and say, okay, you know what, maybe it's time to shut the party down and go home, stuff like that. Because, you know, things always happen when there's, you know, I just say people are partying too much and too long, and things usually happen. Bad things happen. So that's some of the things. Oh, one other thing under like police or law enforcement is we have a little log building down beside the bridge. We And that building originally was put there, it was going to be like a security checkpoint. And we wanted to have the police once in a while just do like checks there. Like you would, they basically said almost like, what do you call it, like a road, you know, the police could stop you and say, okay, what are you doing, where are you going, who's with you, and stuff like that. And again, you know, we wouldn't want to break people's civil liberties or anything like that, but, you know, that idea for that checkpoint actually came from an elder in Kijik Bay way back, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, when we were having issues in the communities with like drugs and whatever else was happening. And he actually suggested that, and so I was on the council then, so I acted on it and tried to put that building there, but we never got the police to man it, kind of thing. So that's something I'd still like to do. You know, it's not it would just be occasionally, I think, you know, and people would, you know, if you're a drug dealer and you know you might be stopped, you maybe think twice about coming here. But right now, you know, you can just drive in and out anytime. And I guess with the kind of in that same area, like basically preventing, you know, trying to reduce the harm done by, you know, people using these hard drugs is have a drug testing program for the chief and council and for all band employees, where you basically have to get tested once in a while just to make sure you're not using, you know, the drugs that are illegal. Rainy River First Nation, they've done this, and we've met with them. They've come up here a few times, and we're basically looking at, I mean, the band administration now is looking at doing this anyways, but it's something that I would for sure continue to work on. You know, it's, I believe it's got to start at the top, right? If you're going to tell the youth, you know, don't do drugs, well, you got to make sure the leadership isn't doing them either, so that's something that I would want to do. Just keep going. I know people have been sitting here for a while, so we'll try to speed this up a little bit. Fire protection, like I believe we need fire protection in the community here, like we need fire trucks and a volunteer fire department. I'm working on that and still continue to work on that. We need an emergency plan in place for if any emergencies do happen. We need to have a plan so people know what we're going to do. You know, example would be if the power goes off during a big snowstorm or something like that. We'll need to have a plan on how we're going to look after people. In the area of like jobs and training, economic development, I know we've made a lot of progress with the forestry. Like we're involved in managing the Laxo Forest now, and I think we need to continue to do that. There's still more, you know, I think opportunities there where our community members could be more involved, or there's more jobs to, you know, we could put more people to work in the forest. You know, we have an agreement with Goldcorp also, the Goldcorp mine in Red Lake, and it's an agreement where we're supposed to get benefits. We do get benefits from it, and they're supposed to provide, you know, the chance for people to work in the mine, and that is happening. But again, you know, we could take advantage of that a lot more. We have opportunities there to do things at the mine. Like for instance, we have an opportunity to, one of them was to provide kitchen services for the camp there. And then there's also opportunities like to do, like have a trucking company and be able to truck things up to the mine. But we need to put these things in place, but they're there kind of waiting for us to take advantage of. I think we need to spend a lot more time trying to implement some of those things. Under, like with housing, one of the things I'd like to do with housing is have free rent for the elders. So the elders would basically have free rent; they wouldn't have to pay rent. And I don't know how would say, okay, 65 and over. That's maybe that's something we could do, because we'd have to pick some kind of a time when you were going to say you wouldn't have to pay rent anymore. And the rent would still be paid, but I would propose to pay out of some of the other sources of revenue that we do have coming in. Like we get funding from Casino-Rama, we get funding from OPG. So for the elders, they wouldn't have to pay, but the rent would still be paid, but from another source. And we do have those funds coming in. Still like to encourage people to build their own houses. We do have a couple of programs where the First Nation supports people to build their own houses. Still like to continue that and maybe expand on it. Where I support the tiny homes that we're trying to build now. We're going to actually be building three tiny homes as kind of a pilot project. And that's to provide homes to people, like the single people that usually never get a house, or single elderly people, things like that. Under the with the flood claim, I call it the flood claim. The settlement that we had. I would support doing a payout to all the people, but especially the elders. Similar to what we've done in the past, like not a lot of money, but I think we did $1,500 for each person in the past. Like I'd support something like that. Land use. With land use, we have a lot of in Laxo here. We're really blessed to have such a large land base. Like our reserve is really large compared to a lot of other reserves. And there's a lot of opportunity to do different things with it. I know a couple of people mentioned another tourist camp. That's something that I would certainly agree with. To have another tourist camp somewhere located like on the reserve. But maybe move away from strictly fishing and try to do other things like have people come and take advantage of maybe traditional teachings and things like that. I think there's a market for that. I mean, people will still probably want to go fishing, but we could expand it to do other things, not just rely on people could maybe try to get families to come and they can experience our traditional activities and things that we do. I believe people will come to experience that. So with the land use also, I support people, there's an issue of building cabins or trapline cabins. Like I definitely would support people who want to build their cabins in our traditional area. Like I'm not talking about just on reserve, but off reserve as well. Like out in our traditional area, like most of us have families, they came from some area, within our traditional territory, and I would support people to, establish a cabin there for their own use, to harvest, to hunt, to do whatever. So that's something that I would really push for and try to support the people to do. And with that, I'd like to have a food bank. I'd support, establishing a food bank and basically have traditional food, like other people have already suggested that, but I agree that's something I'd like to have. We have a small commercial fishing license. The band has it. So I think we could certainly go out and, catch fish using nets, and that would be a source of, to have the fish there. And maybe we could smoke some of that fish or maybe sell it locally. There's enough of a market. I think we could sell the fish locally and just provide it to our community members also. I just want to talk a little bit about this because it's something that I've always believed we should have is like an urban reserve. And I would still, I haven't haven't given up on that idea yet, but I'd still like to work on having some sort of urban reserve, maybe just in the town of Hudson where we have our training center. Or maybe we could make that land into a reserve land, and that would help us in a lot of ways with funding from the federal government. In other areas too, like we own property like in Sioux Lookout where the Giant Tiger is now. We own that building. Maybe look at turning that piece of property into urban reserve. You know, would help us, like help our members with taxes and things like that. You wouldn't have to pay taxes when you shop there. And there's lots of other, you know, we could do other things with within urban reserve or, you know, around the area of economic development. So that's just some of the things I'd like to, you know, work on if I'm selected to be the leader, either counselor or chief. And yeah, so with that, I'll just wrap it up and again say thank you, and I wish all the other candidates here good luck, and the people running for council also. You know, despite what some people say, I think, you know, our community is, you know, we have a very nice community. We do have a lot of issues, but overall, I think the leadership that we've had and has done a pretty good job of putting things in place and, you know, keeping us safe and that kind of stuff. So I'd like to thank the leadership and, you know, the previous, the outgoing Chief Bull, for all of his work. I think he was a great leader. And yeah, so with that, I'll just pass it to the next person here. Thank you, Miigwech.
Hello, Miigwech David. Bonjour. Mona Gordon, Indigenous Cause. Wapshke, Nimikip, Nesik, Indigenous Cause, Metutem. Basic, Mede. My name is Mona Gordon. I am a resident here, Frenchman's Head, Laxo First Nation. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here today. I'd like to thank the elders. It's nice to see, always nice to see the elders come out and show their presence and show their support. And I guess for myself, first of all, I'd like to, you know, in addition to acknowledging the elders, I'd also like to acknowledge the Creator. And I want to say, give special thanks to the Creator for giving me the strength and the courage to organize this chief forum for the chief candidates, as well as the council candidates. I'd like to thank each of the candidates that have made an effort to be here today to introduce themselves and present themselves to the membership of Laxo First Nation. I think it's really important for us to open this door to connect with our membership, and so I want to thank the Creator for giving me the strength, and I want to. I honestly believe that it's time as a First Nation that we reconnect with our membership. Somewhere along the line, our membership has been silenced and our membership has been ignored. And for those of you that know me, I tend to say things that need to be said. And in my platform, in organizing this Chiefs Forum, it's a reflection of what my platform is going to be. My platform is going to be people first. I think it's important for us as a First Nation to rebuild our relationship with our membership. Somewhere along the lines, our relationship, the relationship between Chief and Council has been lost. And I personally believe that our membership is our greatest asset and our greatest resource. And very often has gone unutilized. in a lot of the decisions and the events that have been taking place and that have involved Lac-Seul First Nation. So for me in my campaign, it's really important to give the people their voice back, to empower our people to become involved in their vision for the First Nation. And as a woman who is pursuing leadership, I want to make special acknowledgments to the prophecies of our traditional territory. None of the 29 Treaty 3 communities, there is currently 13 woman chiefs. And the prophecy is that the women will become the heartbeat of our nation. And the women will lead our nation. So for myself as an Anishinaabe Kwe, it's an honor to be sitting here with current leaders, traditional leaders. I'd like to make special acknowledge our traditional chief, Grant Chisel. He's our traditional chief of Frenchman's Head. So I'd like to acknowledge him, and it's a huge honor to be sitting here with him. And as well as our traditional elder, Rod Wesley, and our previous chief, David Gordon, previous leaders, Ron, Derek, Karen, Brad. I myself have never been in a leadership position in our community. And so it's a great honor to be able to be taking part in this year's election. And I'm happy to have opened that door because we do live in a world of technology. And I believe it's important for us to utilize that technology to the best of our ability, especially with our membership and our people. Because our people, I believe our people will be the driving force behind moving our First Nation forward. And as Anishinaabe Kwe, when I make reference to that prophecy, I see us as being on that cusp. We're pivoting. We're pivoting. And if Lac-Seul, if this year's election comes out with a woman chief, that prophecy will come alive in our community. And we will start making that turn towards the change that we need as a nation. So for me, that's really important, and it's something that I really hold dear and believe in with all my heart. And I want to acknowledge the other women candidates that are running for chief. Rosemary Lac-Seul, unfortunately, she was not able to find transportation to attend the Chiefs Forum here today, although she wished that she could be here. And I'd also like to acknowledge the other women that are seeking counsel in Whitefish Bay, Kijik Bay, here in Frenchman's Head. And I'd like to make special acknowledgements to Tony Angeconeb, who's our only resident of Canoe River. So some of the things that I want to pursue and want to present to my platform is people first, putting people first, empowering our people, giving the voice back to our people. And I wanted to demonstrate by organizing this live stream Chiefs Forum how easy it is for us to connect with our membership, how easy it is to share information in today's day and age and with today's technology, and how easy it is to consult our people. The other platform, some of the other things I have on my platform are accountability. Same with a lot of the other candidates here. I agree with a lot of the other things that they have presented and they've presented to the people. Transparency, accountability. And I'd like to talk a little bit about our traditional chief, Grant Chisel, opened it up with mentioning our treaty. And the treaties between our nations are the foundation of this country. And I know with the new rights and recognition framework that Trudeau is trying to push with our chiefs, it's not something that I support, but I do believe that we have to unite and be prepared as a First Nation, because our agreement is with the Queen herself. And for Trudeau to be trying to make us, remove us from the second party in that agreement and making us the fourth party, it's not right. And I think that Canada has a responsibility to uphold their end and their responsibility of these treaties. After all, they are affirmed and recognized under the Canadian Constitution and are part of the supreme law of this country. Our ancestors negotiated an agreement with this government, with this country, which was forward-looking in the form of resource, revenue sharing, and that we would maintain government power for ourselves as a nation. Through our treaties, our chiefs are intended to protect and defend our traditional territory. And with that being said, I really, really believe that we need to improve communications from the leadership down to the membership. Because as a member of this First Nation community, I've lived here all my life. I've lived in the area all my life. There hasn't been a great deal of communication as to what our First Nations position is at these regional tables, at the Treaty 3 table, at the Ontario Chiefs table, at the national table. And there are a lot of big things on our doorstep that need to be communicated and shared with our people. Big things that are not only that are gonna affect our future generations, affect my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. And as a leader, I see it as my responsibility to continue to defend and protect what is rightfully theirs. The land, the air, the water, all things sacred. Our children are our most sacred gifts given to us by the Creator. So we need to stand together, unite together, rise together. We need to come together as a community. We need to engage with our elders, especially our elders. The hardship that they have lived through since the flooding of our land, since the residential school era. We are just now starting to come out of that with recovery. We are just starting to recover from all of the effects of the assimilation and the colonization that this government has put on our people and put our people through. So it's a little bit of those are a little bit of the thoughts that I have when it comes to accountability. And accountability in the community at the community level would be quarterly annual general meetings, would be live streamed community meetings, information sharing would be live streamed. I believe that we're capable of, I want to thank the Silicon Library for coming here and live streaming this event. But I do believe as a First Nation we're capable of creating our own YouTube channel that each and every one of our members can subscribe to stay informed, to stay involved, to be a part of their community's vision. And a little bit more about accountability, in addition to the community, the quarterly, the monthly, the quarterly. I see no reason why our AGMs only have to be 1 or 2 times a year. Like I said, our people are our greatest asset, and our people are our greatest resource, and they are underutilized. We have a lot of members that are pursuing education in law, journalism, health. We have traditional teachers in our area that if they were considered to be a doctor, they would have their PhDs. So we have a lot of great resources that we need to start utilizing. In terms of accountability and transparency, I'm going to talk a little bit about the finances. I'm going to get right to the chase because we don't have a whole lot of time left. I'm currently in my 2nd year of Confederation College with business accounting, and in participating in this program, I'm learning a lot of the rules and regulations and the procedures that most organizations and government bodies are required to follow. And financial statements and financial reports are a big thing that and are extremely important. And as a member of this First Nation, as members of this First Nation, this information is not being shared with us. And I honestly see no reason why we cannot provide quarterly financial statements to our membership. I don't see there being any reason why we cannot organize a committee of people that have credentials in finance to oversee our First Nations finances and our First Nation audits. The 16-17 audit was a little behind schedule. Actually, it was a lot behind schedule. It was just posted. It was well over a year behind schedule. Our 17th, 18th audit is already 3 months behind. So these kind of things have me concerned, and these are some of the reasons why I agreed to accept the nominations to run for chief and council. Because there are some practices that are not being followed through with our financial administration that I really think that we need to start practicing and seeing through. And ensuring that we have qualified people managing our finances. And the other thing with accountability is reporting to your people on a regular basis. I question our chief and council's salaries. I question their honorariums. I question their travel. In total, it's, I believe In total, it is somewhere near $500,000 of direct service funding that is taken from our people to pay our leadership. I kind of have an issue with that, because when direct services start being affected, it's our people that suffer. So I honestly think that that needs to be under review as well, possibly renegotiated. I really support David's suggestion of people holding jobs outside of the chief and council and not costing the people of the First Nation. I honestly don't believe that we should have to pay our leadership almost $500,000 to lead our people and to make decisions for our people and to travel all over the country and not report back to the people. So with that being said, accountability, I honestly think that all this travel that's been happening at the chief and council level needs to come to a stop. I'm not no mathematician, but $15,000 times 9, that's a couple jobs. That's a lot of firewood for our elders. That's a few personal support workers for our elders. That's how I look at that. So I think regular meetings with your people is very important. And in all honesty, I don't know what the issue is. Why do you not want to meet with your people? Why do you not want to talk to your people? Why don't you want to engage your membership? So some of the other issues that I would be looking at, should I be elected as chief or council of Frenchman's Head. So a financial review, a line-per-line audit, a forensic audit, because with the $4.6 million allocation towards the deficit, bad debt, and bad investment, I honestly believe that those are grounds enough to call for a forensic audit. And I agree with the membership when they say it's time for a forensic audit. And that's accountability. There's been a lot of things that have been happening. I took a brief look at the 2016-2017 audit, and there's some things that are, raise concern for me as a member of this First Nation. And I'm entitled to that information. And that takes us back to information sharing, communication. The economic portfolio review, I think really needs to be looked at. Not making any promises, but I agree with the other candidates that we really need to look at that. We need to look at that portfolio and kind of see what's been going on there. Because in my opinion, 3,000 mines, because we have a membership of 3,004, 3,000 mines are better than one. And I really think that our people need to be involved in the direction that our First Nation is going to go in terms of economics. There's a lot of revenue sharing talks that I believe that we need to be involved in and a part of. I'm all for supporting new housing initiatives, new healthcare initiatives. I would be supporting our new team of leadership with new education funding that is coming our way. And I support strategic planning, and with strategic planning, I believe that our membership needs to be involved, 100%. I want to talk a little bit about the land. There's one of the big things is the climate change, being prepared What are we doing as a First Nation to be prepared for those things that are going to be affected by climate change? Are we ready for climate change? I think we need to be an active advocate at the national level to ensure that proper changes are made for future generations to come. With the land, you know, I think, I'm not going to say that our previous leadership and, you know, our Obish Resources and our forestry company and forestry management plan that haven't done some good things. I'm sure they have. But we are reaching a time in this world where we need to stop looking at deforestation and start looking at reforestation. We need to start looking at reusable, renewable, what's the other one? Reusable, renewable, slips my mind, but in options. We need to start looking at green infrastructure. With the air, we need to start looking at the pollution. What are we doing as a First Nation to reduce our emissions? The Grandmothers of Treaty 3 Council had made little recommendations a few years back, and I think as a First Nation we could support their recommendations. And some of their recommendations were no more styrofoam. No more styrofoam at these gatherings. No more styrofoam at these meetings. And I think that those are little things that we can do as a First Nation when we exercise our rights, but more importantly, our responsibilities to the land, to the air, to the water, and to our children. In addition to that, I'd also like to look at alternatives for our waste management plan. What is our waste management plan as a First Nation? Our landfill is being filled up on a regular basis. We have a lot of people coming from outside of our community, bringing their garbage here. Recyclable, that's the third R. Renewable, reusable, recyclable. I'd really like for us in our First Nation to start looking into some of those initiatives. Because I honestly believe that it's my responsibility as an Anishinaabe, as a mother, as a grandmother. I have to take it, I have to make that my responsibility. And with the water, what are we doing to protect our water? I honestly believe that we could become more proactive in protecting our water. Lac Seul, growing up, I was always told that Lac Seul was the heart of the universe. And I still believe that to this day, that it is the heart of the universe. As Anishinaabe people, we have a responsibility to protect that. We cannot ignore what's happening with our water. 95% of our body is made up of water.